Now we can go on, and I would like to ask to the stage Mr. Cortie to talk about the projects, cooperation, and opportunities as a member of the board at the SRC Netherlands. Peter, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Morning. So, let me see what's on there. Wow. Good morning, everybody. When Thijs and Arrow approached me to ask me if I wanted to say something about bridge building, Holland, Estonia, and how our cooperation was going, I reacted immediately very enthusiastic. Then when the date came nearer, actually we haven't been in conferences or presentations for the last couple of years with the COVID situation, of course. And I started to think, you know, what is the what is it that I can bring you from my own experience? And then I have to point out that everything I say and everything I tell you today is based on my experience of the last 30 years. So maybe afterwards we can have some chit-chat, one-on-one dialogues, or if you have questions, let me know. So first, a little bit about myself. I graduated in the mid-80s as a plumber, and as plumbing is household and small things, I wasn't really interested, so I moved my studies to bigger stuff, and I came up with marine engineering, big engines, big electrical installations. I have let's say the happiness, the positive thing that I'm one of the last engineers who sailed under the Dutch fleet with steam engines and steam turbines. So after my sailing days in the marine, in the engine room, a couple of years within the cruise liners, I moved on shore, and then I became first a sales engineer, and then a sales manager, always in a global environment. Then moved another few steps up the ladder into the boardroom, so to say, and ended my career about, well, it's already 7-8 years ago. I was the managing director of Holland's largest electrical contractor, and then for the division Marine and Offshore. So in 2015, I came on a cross path, and I had a choice to continue in corporate life or pick the road of entrepreneurship, and I choose for that one. And I must say that maybe financially, having stayed in corporate life, nice salaries, a sort of a fixed freedom, liberty. It hasn't always been easy, but the freedom itself is like a fruit you got really soon addicted to. The common denominator in my whole life career is marine and offshore. I breathe it, I eat it, I think about it, I dream about it at night. So in 2015 we started with some trading, and we traveled. I have a business partner in the Netherlands. Actually, I do everything with that business partner. Sometimes when we are somewhere, we are called man and woman, and man and wife, and that's quite funny. But in 2016, at the fair in Hamburg, I was introduced via mutual acquaintance to Hannes Lilp, who was here as well, from the SRC group. And we started to chit-chat about the business and about the philosophies that keeps us busy. And well, soon after we visited Estonia, and in early 2017 we set up SRC Netherlands. Now, the idea was that first of all, the markets we were both looking at, they were in the marine, they were the cruise, and the ferry industries, the dredging, the fishery, actually all the, let's say, maritime industries you will find around the Netherlands, either with companies or with assets or even with engineering companies or links. And our clients were also on the similar range, the ship owners, asset owners, but also we were talking to governments, local governments, etc. So why was SRC as a company so attractive to us? First of all, the discussions were very open, and initially Hannes and his team were thinking about opening offices, either they 100% owned or giving out dealership or agencies. And from our point of view, we didn't want to go back into an employment service. So working for SRC Netherlands as an Estonian company was not an option, nor was actually the agency or distributorship. And our solution to that was that we actually participated in SRC Netherlands, whereby if business and project business goes slow, and Karel also mentioned it, you know, sometimes you really have to wait quite some time in anxiousness, but if you are an agent, a distributor, you are looking actually for the reasonable fast money because the chimney has to smoke, right? So we actually came to the conclusion, and we established SRC Netherlands, but I must say that the pillars, the foundation from SRC is here in Estonia. And Hannes and his partners established it in 2001. The track record is more than 4,000 projects executed now globally. We have in our employment-based, and I say we, as part of the SRC group, we have offices in Estonia here. There's about 45, 50 people here. Then there are people in Italy, in Poland, in Holland, and in the US. We have actually, we were quite lucky in Rotterdam, I'll come back to that later, to sit or get our office in the center of the port of Rotterdam. We also have a philosophy that to keep our business healthy, to run on a daily basis, 365 days a year, 10 to 15 projects. That can be small projects, that can be large projects, but from our key pillars, and I will come to that in the next slide. But from our key pillars, we actually work, and then when we require blue collar or other sorts of specialists to execute, we hire them in on a temporary basis. And these flex contracts, once the project is gone, then we actually close the contracts, and then we are back to our core employees. So, just a small start of, let's see if it works, a small video of SRC, and then SRC Netherlands in particular. We are located in right in the center of the port of Rotterdam, and where we have access to a quayside of 300 meters, which can be extended to almost 600 meters. And our depth for berthing is about 10.5 meters and 45 meters in width. We make use of all the facilities that SRC Group provides us, that is the project management with all the tools, procurement, logistics, and the HR crewing that we use. We've executed a number of projects in the last couple of years together with SRC, and I will mention a few in a bit. Okay, no. Oops, nope. I need some assistance. I took the wrong one, sorry. Oh, yep. And then, like this? Nope. There we go. So, summary. Sorry for that. SRC Head Group is based, headquarters is here in Tallinn, in Estonia. Project management, all the supporting functions are organized from here, with the help as well in Italy and Poland. In the Netherlands, we have this 500 square meter of offices, We do mainly the business development for Europe and Far East for it. We have the facilities for warehousing. We can do fabrication, sub-fabrication, and as I stated, we have quite some access to our key site, which is quite, let's say, applicable for our customers. So 5 years in the business, and I think that with the support of the SRC group here in Estonia, we were able to really attract some really nice projects. We worked for Deme, finished a vessel in Croatia for them. We are going to execute in a couple of months a very big project on an FPSO in Qatar. We've been working in Cartagena in Spain. We are doing ballast water treatment systems in a frame contract for Maersk, etc., etc. So I think the strength here is, I would say, maybe the merchant talents from the Netherlands and the thoroughness and the very positively meant stubborn way of looking and moving forward in projects from the Estonians has really brought us a lot of success against the COVID era and all the negative parts that for some companies have come with it. So just quickly a couple of references, as I mentioned, in Cartagena, and this is an interesting project, as the order was given prior to COVID, and then when the pandemic started, this project was shelved. But in February last year, we got a phone call that they wanted to restart. And this started as a interior refit project, whereby we were going to change the cabins of this almost 40-year-old vessels. The vessel was built in 1980, so all the cabins were emptied, including the wet cells, and we had to renew these. However, when we opened the panels, we saw a lot of damaged and rotten pipes, and during the work then Allseas mentioned, why can't you also do the ballast water treatment system into it. 3 months, 130 people out in Cartagena, and a more than happy customer in the end who is talking with us now for other projects. Maersk, 20 frame contract for Maersk Supply Services for 24 vessels. With the location in the Netherlands, we were able already to have 5 vessels there now. We did a couple of vessels in Las Palmas. We're going to execute in a couple of weeks 3 vessels in the Bahamas, and this is continuing. And Maersk is keep coming back and adding actually vessels within this frame contract to us. So I think we're doing something right there. Project management combination goes between the Netherlands and Estonia, and people work as a real team. This was a project that was awarded to SRC Group for the installation of scrubbers. These are big filters in the exhaust lines of these cruise ships. Initially, the idea was to do this over a period of 2 years post-pandemic during operations. So when you have passengers on board. During the pandemic, the vessels were brought to Marseille, and SRC flew in there, hundreds of people, created a bubble. And we actually did these projects in something like 4 months, 6 months to finalize them. As a result, Norwegian was very impressed, and we are now awarded with the pilot project to see if methanol as an alternative fuel can be used on one of our vessels. We do everything that a ship repair yard does, but then we do it usually not on our own location, but somewhere in the world. And Tallink, one of your, well, he's the largest ship owner around here, and a very solid company, and we are happy that we can work a lot for them. We do a lot of interior work for them. Here you see some examples of retrofits of interior and of restaurants that we have done. And then maybe last but not least, and that's then the hub. So out of my own little marketing story of what SRC is. So Estonia, Netherlands, and how do I see the steps to the future? And this project, this reference, this is Corsica Linea. Those are 3 vessels sailing in the Mediterranean. And they actually, a couple of years ago, started to implement shore power connection. And why shore power connection? These vessels, they come into the ports of Marseille and other conglomerations. And when they have the engines on, there's a lot of environmental pollution, there's a lot of noise. And when you have a shore power connection to the shore, you actually are on the power grid. You could even feed it with green power, like windmill energy or solar energy. And then at least for the couple of hours that the vessel is in port, you don't have this environmental footprint. So ABB was awarded actually with the components, and we were subcontracted to organize everything around it. And why is this an important reference in a sort of a bridge to the topic that I'm going to? We have seen over the last 3 decades there is an enormous route towards electrification. And from my point of view, Estonia, the Baltics, within the Baltics, for instance, there is a lot of trade in wood and paper. There is other materials that goes up and down. But the whole conglomeration around here is with Finland, Sweden, Norway, the Baltics, a bit of the hinterland of Poland. You might talk about 20 to 30 million people. And in the end, your market around here for Estonia is going to be a bit saturated. And you are making, and I'll show that in other slides, you're making enormous steps forward in your development, but everything needs to be able to keep up. So if you look at this slide, then I've actually pinpointed out 3 cities, which is Amsterdam, and Rotterdam, and Antwerp. And this is called the ARA area, so for Amsterdam, Rotterdam, and Antwerp. And for me on the left side, Rotterdam is the largest port in Europe, then Antwerp is the second largest, and Amsterdam is situated 4th. And if you even extend the bit, you could also take Hamburg into account. But the geographical situation is that these 3 ports, they are within a distance of something like maybe 100 to 120 kilometers. And they are not only connected via the waterways over sea, but in the aftland there are canals. And these canals are also connected to natural rivers. And in the end, and we call that that vein, that's the Rhine. The Rhine is connected to the Danube, and the Danube goes all the way to the Black Sea. And if you are able to transport your goods from that ARA area, then you actually have access to a region of 460 million people. So that means basically that whatever you do out here, and I'm talking from a marine and offshore perspective, whether you transport goods, whether you bring certain innovation, products, knowledge, or even financial means, when you bring it to that ARA area, there is for sure a very active center where there's always somebody or some companies that are willing to listen to opportunities to step forward. If I look at, and this is what I found, and most of you are Estonians, so you know better, but since the 13th century, you have been living together with Danish and Swedish and Russians under all sorts of rulings. The Dutch were not there. We have quite a history of colonization in the world, but we never made it up to this route. But, and that was also mentioned by Arrow. On the other hand, via the Hanse cities and also later on via the trade agreements that we had, Holland and Estonia have long-lasting trading and diplomatic ties. And actually that's not that strange because over road via Poland it's about 2,000 kilometers. to drive. So trucks can easily go up and down in 24, 48 hours. If you have a coaster, it sails in 3 to 4 days from Tallinn port to any port in the, let's say, the Benelux area. And by plane, it's less than 2.5 hour flight. And then there was a nice question to Karel about how he perceives the difference in between the Dutch and the Estonians. I would, because I've been thinking about this in preparation of the speech, I would say to you, we are much, we fill up each other's gaps, so to say, whereby we are maybe a bit more outspoken and en route in our business development ideas. It might be that the Estonians are a bit more solid in the way they approach it and more thinking. And I think you need a good balance of of both worlds to actually go there. But interesting about that bit of history, and this crossed my mind when I was preparing for this presentation. If you look in general to the characteristics of developing countries from historically global trends, and you look at, for instance, country like Japan after the World War, South Korea after the Korean War, Holland post-World War, and then also later on, you don't need always a war, but how China developed, how Singapore developed. You see that it always starts almost with investments in heavy industry, infrastructural projects, roads, rail, house development, construction. And one of the reasons, one of the drivers is that requires skilled blue-collar labor. You put from an unemployment, a high unemployment rate, you put a lot of people at work. There are going to be salaries, there's going to be a stable stream of money rising, there's going to be luxury goods bought, there's going to be a development. And as a spin-off, over time, and last week I was in Singapore, but I've been to many places around the world. What you can see is a certain equilibrium has been reached or is reached. And the blue collar rates, they are no longer that attractive anymore to export. So what you see is that countries like Poland, Romania, Ukraine, Estonia, relatively cheap labor within European Union boundaries, easy to cross borders, but there was actually one benefit for the users of this, and that was the leverage of price that they could use. Since 1990, Estonia has developed unbelievable fast. I think if you would put that against South Korea or Singapore or Japan, that you might end up maybe in the top 1. And your success is also your Achilles. Because the maths won't lie, and we are working in this European Union environment. And if we apply to the rules, and I must say I come across in Holland a number of times offers of rates for blue collar that I say that can't be possible. But if you apply and obey to the rules, then you will need for a blue collar that comes from any European country and that comes to work in the Netherlands, we need to be able to check, and we need to make sure that social security fees have been paid, that the labor person is insured, that taxes are paid. Furthermore, you have to make sure that the hours that you work, that they are actually within the boundaries of the law. Give you an example. And that's in the second line. I request for 2 electricians for some work to be done on a vessel in the port of Rotterdam. Then I call SRC Group, do you have 2 electricians from Estonia? Sure, Peter, we have them. They call a recruitment company, and I get 25 euros per hour, flat rate. That 25 euro, then the guy, I don't make any money on that, so this is cost price. The guy has to fly to the Netherlands, and when he arrives, he actually needs to have some lodging and boarding. Now, if I can put somebody on a vessel, then I win. But at the moment that the vessel is full, that the cabins are taken, or just that the ship owner doesn't want them, I need to organize some boarding, some lodging, some food, at least for the breakfast and the dinner. The person, the blue-collar labor, wants to work 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. Otherwise, he won't come, because he's coming here to make money. He doesn't want to sit in his hotel and rest. So if I take all these costs that I have on a daily base, I add at least 15 to 20 euro per hour on top of it. Means that the blue collar, that cost here 25 euros at the recruitment, cost my customer at least 40 to 45 euros. And then I haven't made any profit. And then I have another challenge. In the Netherlands law, you can actually work a maximum of 10 hours per day for 6 days for a minimum period. You are only allowed in a period of 4 weeks to work maximum 55 hours per week. And on top of that, if they stay longer, if you go over the 4 weeks, then it's 48 hours. So I cannot pay the guy the money, the 25 euros for the 60 hours he comes in the week. So actually, he has downtime. So the rate goes up again. And in the end, if it is for a short-term project, and that is the business that we are in, it is not anymore in all cases very beneficial to get cheaper labor, so to say, from Estonia or Romania or Bulgaria. Now, there are companies that still have rules to evade this, but the Dutch authorities are very stringent. And another additional one, I've been working in this way for IHC, and they just kept 30% of the payment they kept behind, because I first need to prove that the insurances were paid, that the taxes were paid in Estonia, that everything was paid before the 30% was released. So I was also playing a bank, right? So money for the future, ladies and gentlemen, is not going to be your leverage to win this game, in my personal, humble view. So what can Estonia bring? And what are your strengths? I mentioned it with the Corsica Linea example. Electrification takes, in the past 3 decades, an enormous flight over the maritime and offshore industry. There's a number of reasons for it. In the beginning, it was just more efficient. You could save fuel, you could better control the powers, the engines, the generators are relatively cheaper. The fuel was in the beginning more expensive, but nowadays in certain zones you are not even allowed to burn heavy contaminating fuel anymore, so diesel is the driver anyhow. So diesel electric. And with diesel electric, another era stepped in, and that is the era of automation. Because the more electrical you have on board, the more you can automate. And the more you can automate and organize, the more computers you have on board. And then the next step was quite simple. I can actually set up telecommunication links to head offices, ship owners, asset managers, and from there I can actually manage my vessels. And this is the route that we are following now towards autonomous sailing. Because what are the costs of a vessel? Fuel and labor. Because the material won't really break down. It is those two costs. So fuel, I can't control really. I can look for alternatives, but I can control the labor cost, and via automation. And now we're back in Estonia. What is your biggest GDP driver? IT, services, telecommunication, banking. You are already in that center. You need to, in my view, you need to bring that outside, because, as I said, the market here is relatively small, and also the countries. So the bridge to Holland is maybe a natural bridge which is easy to take. As I mentioned, your economical key pillars, telecommunication, IT, and then you come at cybersecurity. And if there's one thing that is at this moment really, really hot, it is cybersecurity. I was fortunate enough in Holland, we have quite a big ship owners association and supplier association. And I was presiding for about 7 years this board, whereby 12 Dutch ship owners and suppliers, 12 suppliers, a group of 24 people, representative from the industry, had, I must say already for, it started with satellite communication in general and the cost impact that it had for getting all this data from the ships up and down to the offices, but soon it actually became how can we protect our data. And I can give you, if you're interested, a very short example. There was a ship owner who asked a white-collar hacker to see how vulnerable his system was. One of the vessels of the ship owner came into a port. Then over the public Wi-Fi, a guy connected his phone. With that IP, he was followed onto the ship. Then he logged in to the ship Wi-Fi system. They had planted some information in, and then from there, they were, in the end, inside the headquarters. It is very easy, very fast, and they can take over your vessel. And this vulnerability, this is something, Maersk has already been suffering from it, Wagenborg, Spliethof, they're all been under attack already. Yeah. So this is where I would say that the current strengths from Estonia, in the IT knowledge, in your platform that you already have here, that is something that you could bring immediately with your knowledge over in the bridge to the Netherlands, but most probably far beyond that, to actually build on that one. Are there any questions?
Yes, thank you, Peter. And I have to tell that as we have also some viewers via internet, then it is, there is a technological solution that it's possible to ask also questions from there, from this audience. If not, then I wanted to ask first myself as a moderator, then you brought out that it's possible to bring this IT knowledge to convert it to the cybersecurity. Estonia has already some kind of trademark also in this field. Mm-hmm. But if we talk about especially the maritime industry, then what might be, let's say, some issues which need a special attention and care on behalf of government? Because if we take a look at the Dutch maritime industry, then definitely we understand here that it's a long way to go.
Yeah, there are several angles to look at how to build cybersecurity in. Now, it starts with that you have to understand that each supplier actually brings in their own software on the ship. So the firewalls that you are that you need to build, the safety measures that you need to take, they are not just a standard, because there is not a general protocol that everybody uses. 15, 20 years ago, every ship, mandatory, had to renew its paper maps when it was going back into the Baltics or over the North Sea, because the sea bottom is changing, and paper. So then at a certain moment, Class, which is the front door for insurance companies, Class came up with the acceptance that digital maps were acceptable. So there are in the world, there are now 3-4 of these global maps for ships available. And they all 3-4, they run their own system. So if I buy my maps from Data in the Netherlands, then I get a certain protocol in, which I need to build around it, because that map is connected to my radar system. That radar system is connected to my complete system integration, to my alarm monitoring system, to collision avoidance. So this is a very complex situation. I'm not even talking about at what level do governments step in to actually say, now you go beyond the control that we are allowing you, or it's not sufficient. So this is a very complex world. So I think that from the angle I took in, I see these IT organizations, these cybersecurity specialists, these companies that have this knowledge in-house, and they are actually going to talk with other companies in this maritime field. And it starts with the question, what kind of situation, what kind of problems are you facing? And then from there on, build for those specific brands. Because Wärtsilä, engine business, for sure, they have already, how can I say it, the think tanks working on this. Yeah. But a lot of successful smaller companies, they don't even have the budget to do this. So they just continue what they've always been doing, and actually they are, with their small part, a threat for the total. So.
And also in this context, definitely there is a challenge to have enough skilled labor, as always in Estonia.
Yes, but as I try to let's say from the point of view I see it, you know, at the moment that a country is developing, look in the Netherlands. I think I have a son of 19, and there is one guy who is a trained welder, and the rest all went to economical schools, law schools, marketing schools. They all are white collars, and if I ask him to hang up a painting on the wall, he doesn't know how to nail the, let's say, put the hammer on the nail. So this is a situation that we have already in the Netherlands, and this is something which comes this way. This is coming this way. As I mentioned, I was in Singapore last week. Sleipnir was built there. That's the largest vessel of Heerema. They took 4 years, and at a certain moment they had 10,000 blue collars in that vessel. 10,000 in 24 hours. All Bangladeshis. Because in Singapore, there is no Singaporean anymore, like in Holland, who know how to weld, who know how to paint. You get them from outside. And I think, you know, be prepared that you are going to lose your blue skilled, your blue collar skilled, and that you also, at a time, you know, will have to import these yourself.
Yep.
Just a moment, I have a question. What I loved about your story is the vision you displayed, matching Estonian competence with Dutch demand, or world demand for that matter. Now I know that Estonia has, in terms of the match between software and hardware, a huge competence. If you look at industrial automation, for example, that is the type of skill that you can migrate to the marine industry.
Yes.
However, if we look at IT companies being good at cybersecurity, for example, these are IT guys sitting in an office in Tallinn, Estonia, or in Barcelona, or God knows where. How should they deliver their service to the end customer? In terms of how do they sell it? How do they end up with getting in touch with the right business partner in the Netherlands? Should they sell to end customers directly? Should they look for an agent who sells their products? Because these guys don't know the maritime industry. What should they do?
Yeah, okay, first one side step. We're talking about now about cybersecurity, but for sure it also goes for the electrical hardware components, and I'm aware there is a lot of production innovation ongoing here as well on that part. But for all these sort of entrepreneurial steps, the route that I would recommend, that I would suggest is you need to find trustworthy, and trustworthy goes for you, business partners in those fields. And if you are interested how to approach, for instance, if you don't know anything about the Dutch maritime aspect, in the Netherlands there is a maritime associations called NMT, Netherlands Maritime Technology. They have more than 450 members, and those are suppliers in all sorts of fields, from panels to carpets to air conditioning systems, and they're also linked to something like 83 shipyards and ship repair yards. So that's the Dutch association. So if you as a company have an innovative idea, an idea to develop a business, want information, I would say that might be the best corridor to walk through. And if you like to get in touch with them, can be via me, or my numbers and my contact details are on the presentation, or via Thijs. And they for sure, they have a full-fledged office with about 20 people, I believe, in Rotterdam, and they can help you along the line. And actually, we are a member there, and I have been talking to people from abroad that actually were linked to me via that route. It's a very valuable tool. So that is a route. And then, as I said, yeah, you can always contact me, and if I can be of assistance, then I will for sure do that.
Thanks, Peter. So it means basically that we know, or we can find out, we can identify the parties that supply to the Dutch marine industry or the offshore wind industry or whatever. It could, I presume, be a very good idea to get your technology into the portfolio of one of these suppliers. That would be the best route. They know their end customers, and you needn't be in the Netherlands to do your sales.